At 4 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. today, Panasonic announced their G95. This guy. Although at firmware version 0.2, and having only got it yesterday, I can only call this a preview. Anyway, maybe you want to call the G95 a baby G9. Maybe a baby GH5 when you take a second look at the controls and the fact that it comes with Vlog-L built-in, no upgrade fee required, and has no recording limit. No recording limit. No, you get it. Although, of course, you can also call it the next generation G85, especially since that's how it's named. Whatever you want to call it, the bottom line is simply this. It doesn't really matter. Once we get to production firmware, and barring unforeseen, egregious teething pains, I think it's fair to say that the G95's form, function, handling, and price will basically demand we consider it a candidate for the best vlogging camera out there, a total package that, for many people, may surpass everything from the Sony a6400 to the Canon RP. Hold that thought, but don't worry, I won't ask you to hold more than 3 thoughts. It will also likely demand we consider it a candidate for best entry-level camera for hybrid enthusiasts too, offering a serious challenge to the FujiFilm X-T30, which, in my book, just reset the bar. Or not. Because if you've already decided full frame is the only way to go, I'm not going to try to disabuse you of that notion. If you've already decided that autofocus is the most important thing, or ultimate dynamic range, or ultimate low-light performance, I'm not going to try to sway you to a different conclusion than either. If you've already decided that dedicated controls for the exposure triangle are what make you most happy, I get it. So just go out, shoot, and enjoy, or get paid for your gigs. It's all good. But for what we do here at Three Blind Men and an Elephant, for our commercial work, our documentary work, our YouTube channel, and of course your mileage may vary, it's fine. Any offspring of these 3 cameras has a lot going for it. Micro Four Thirds is all we need 99% of the time. The other 1% of the time, we use an iPhone, maybe on a gimbal, or our a6300, maybe on a little bit bigger gimbal. Not only did we purchase a GH5 with our own hard cash the day it became available, and have used it as our daily driver ever since, we're recording with it now, and as the workhorse for our documentary series Mariner East, but we named the G9 our 2018 sleeper camera of the year. The advantages of bigger, higher megapixel sensors, which are superior resolution, dynamic range, and high ISO noise performance, a pleasing difference in perspective born of a longer focal length for a given field of view. Simply, again, for us, don't overcome the compact size, lightweight, generally superior functionality, handling, and price advantages of the smaller sensor cameras. Especially when you add in the most important element of all, the glass. I'll put it this way. With maybe kind of the same sensor as the G9, which is pretty much the same as in the GH5. In any case, it is a 20.3 megapixel sensor here in the G95. Maybe kind of the same processor as the G9, which is a bit more advanced than the one in the GH5, especially when it comes to autofocus. Nicely revamped and solidly constructed body with G9 cues like crease in the faux prism housing, GH5 cues like the on-off switch underneath the mode dial on the right and the drive mode dial on the left, dedicated ISO, white balance, and exposure buttons by the shutter release, along with a full rear dial like those found on both, but a body smaller and lighter than either, a G9 style electromagnetic shutter, which is quite nice, autofocus tunability for stills like the G9 and video like the GH5, headphone and mic jack, 180-degree flippy screen, SD card accessed from a side door rather than underneath, and did I mention no recording limit? Plus, all of the goodies we've come to expect, including things like the absolutely lovely L Monochrome D black and white film simulation, their grain simulation, which is the best I've seen, Sequence composition, which I've previously referred to as the Tony Northrup bird diving into the water effect. Built-in intervalometer, 30 frames per second, no blackout 4K mode, yada, 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 yada. And access to the same killer super compact glass to which we've grown accustomed, from the jewel-like little Leica DG 15mm 1.7 to the Olympus 75mm f1.8, lenses we own, and our 2018 lens of the year, the Leica DG Vario Elmarit 50-200 f2.8-4, and more, and feeling as good in the hand as it does with a great grip. This I can confirm right here and now. The G95 is making us rethink the Sony a6400 we're just about to purchase, and the Fuji X-T30 we currently have in-house, which I've already said redefines that segment of the market. And maybe ought to make some of us rethink the Canon RP. Neither the Sony nor the Fuji has the G95's flippy screen. Neither they nor the RP have in-body image stabilization, both of which anyone who has ever used either will tell you are a big deal. It's clear to me that Micro Four Thirds in the real world, for all but the most demanding shooters among us, in all but the most demanding circumstances, represents the best set of trade-offs among cost, size, weight, performance, functionality, and handling. Again, most especially when you consider the glass of all the formats out there today. And I think once it moves into production, unless something else comes along that tops it, the G95 may well offer the best set of trade-offs for value-conscious hybrid shooters, period. Unless, of course, as I said moments ago, you're wedded to a different format. Fair enough. But I do not know, for example, of another combination out there that can touch the G95 when paired with the Leica Vario Elmarit 50-200, except when shooting sports professionally or particularly enthusiastically, and then not at anywhere near the price or convenience. Of course, there are the trade-offs. The G95 still doesn't have the hybrid autofocus of the Sony or the Fuji, nor the dual-pixel autofocus of the Canon RP, which, if you're shooting 4K, actually, the RP doesn't have either. The G95 doesn't have the brilliant 0.83 magnification, 3.7 million dot EVF of the G9. You'll have to get by with a 0.74 magnification, 2.4 million dot unit, though it's actually very nice, noticeably bigger than the EVF of the A6300 and especially the X-T30. It's not dissimilar to the EVF in my Leica CL, which I love. It doesn't offer the 6.5 stops of dual IS-2 stabilization of the G9. You'll have to make do with just 5, but it does sport dual IS-2 and will give you those 5 stops all the way out to a full frame equivalent of 280 millimeters. This 12-60 kit lens is pretty good and is image stabilized as well. The G95 doesn't have dual card slots. Oh well, the A6400, X-T30, and RP don't either. The G95 doesn't do 60 frames per second like the G9 and GH5 do, though it does do 60, 90, and 120 frames per second in full HD. It doesn't do 10-bit. The HDMI port is micro. It doesn't have the same kind of weather sealing, as its bigger and more expensive brethren, parents, whatever. I'm not going to blather on about all the other things the G95 can do or what else is missing. You can read the specs faster than I can spew them out. But I'm really impressed by how much easily accessible functionality Panasonic has put into this camera. In fact, all of its cameras. The harsh backdrop to all of this, however, is that this is a hyper-competitive space. As I said, the G95's contrast detect autofocus simply will not match either the A6400 or the X-T30 hybrid systems, especially when it comes to tracking and IAF. They are just outstanding. Which, on the other hand, probably won't matter to most people as long as they don't shoot sports or models who spin around, which is to be determined with the production unit. The G95 will not have the same dynamic range or high ISO noise performance as the APS-C cameras, full stop. Though again, on the other hand, I've satisfied myself over the past 2 years that the differences are much less of a big deal than most people assume most of the time. It's worth thinking through carefully what you shoot and what you actually need in this regard. Then there's the price. $1,200 with the Vario 12-60 f3.556 when it ships in May. The only configuration available in the US, at least to start. You might argue that this is very high. I understand. Or maybe not when you take into account the price, size, and weight of the lenses. I understand. You could say that Panasonic's pricing strategy is simply de rigueur in the era of continuing collapsing unit shipments, and that other companies are doing the same thing, and I would definitely agree there. As in, I think it's fair to say that Panasonic is adding a pile of value on top of an existing model line for an even bigger pile more money. You can, for example, pick up the G95's predecessor, a G85, with the same 12-60 for just under $700. Sure, 16 point whatever megapixels versus the G95's 20.3, but still, we're talking just about half the price. The G95 kit is the same price, in fact, as a G9 body only, though remember, unlike the G95, the G9 is limited to 30 minutes recording time, a big deal for us, while it's also smaller and lighter. The APS-C censored Sony a6400 with 16-55 kit lens is $200 less than the G95. The Fuji X-T30 with their 18-55, $100 more. But the Sony kit lens, this particular one, just does not impress. I much prefer Panasonic's 12-60 Vario and Fujifilm's 18-55. But you can also get the A6400 or X-T30 body only for $900 each. I don't know when or if that will become an option for the G95. The Panasonic GX9, an awesome little camera with the larger sensor and tilting EVF, now sells with the same lens as the G95 for $400 less, $800. None of them has great battery life. Like I said, super competitive. As for the $1,300 full-frame Canon RP, well, the G95 kit is only $100 less than the full-frame Canon RP body only, but as soon as you add Canon's RF24-105 f4 to the kit so that you have some kind of functional parity, Canon's price tag almost doubles to $2,200. If you want the kind of lens that the RF mount was actually designed for, the Canon's RF 50mm 1.2, which gives drop-dead gorgeous image quality, plan on spending $2,300 on that lens alone. So the RP really isn't in the same price bracket as the G95, yet the RP is in the same functional bracket when it comes to video performance, and the G95 outperforms it. By comparison, Panasonic offers fast, super tasty, and tiny Leica DG primes like the 15 1.7 or 25 1.4 for under $600 each. Fujifilm offers fast, quiet, lightweight, solidly performing optics like the 23, 35, and 50mm f2 primes for less than $500 a pop. Sony offers a number of relatively small and light crop sensor primes, the 24, 35, and 51.8s, and a series of crop sensor zooms, also well priced though. None of them has ever really captured my imagination. The point is, the G95, I think, will make a compelling case, like Fuji, for thinking small.
If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, join the conversation below. You guys continue to be just incredible, knowledgeable, inspiring, funny. I mean, you're a joy, truly. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Grab one or both of our new Hold That Thought t-shirts you wanted us to put up at our new 3BMEPthreadless.com store. Support our work by using our affiliate links down below in the show notes, dropping us coffee money via our PayPal link down below in the show notes, or even better than that, we invite you to become a patron of our work over at Patreon. Link down below. We've created our Patreon page because we are stoked to bring you not only gear reviews, but with our What Were You Thinking and Good World Gone Bad series, historical, educational, artistic morsels, and longer form conversations, not interviews, with world-class photographers, curators, gallery owners, keepers of the legacy, folks like Elliot Erwitt, Anya Sear, Mark Lubell, Ethylene Staley, and friends like Brian Smith, Paul Giroux, Nino Rakicevic, and more. We'd really like you to join us to deliver this kind of content regularly. Your support on Patreon will really help us ramp it up. In which case, as always, we thank you for it. That's it. For Three Blind Men and an Elephant, I'm Hugh Brownstone. See you next time.